Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Smile. Today's guest is Rick Watson. Rick is a holistic coach, storyteller, and Gestalt therapist in training who helps people map their inner world and move toward what matters most. Through his podcast, Humaning, his men's work, and his group programs, Rick creates spaces where honesty feels safe and change feels doable. He brings a down-to-earth mix of humor, heart, and straight talk to the messy middle of being human. Rick's work centers around awareness, emotional responsibility, and the small, courageous shifts that create real momentum in life. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to talk to you today, Rick. Hey, how you doing?
I feel like my bio is really good.
Yeah. Now there's just the pressure to live up to it, right?
Oh my God, who is this guy?
Oh my God, I want to know this guy. How you doing?
I'm really excited and like a little
Boy.
bit nervous excited, but like really excited.
Yeah. I still get nervous. So funny. I actually still get nervous when I do podcasts. And I even sometimes still get nervous when I master share in a 12-step recovery meeting, which is
Yeah.
so bizarre because I do it all the time. But I think when you really care about something and it's important to you, then those nerves are just a really cool, energetic feedback of this is something that's important and exciting.
Yeah, I've kind of got being used to having nerves and rolling. So
Yeah, I
it's
love
great to
it.
be here, Ash.
I can't wait to dive into the conversation today. Can we kick it off with some nice, easy questions? I want to know, Rick, where do you live? What does an average day look like for you? And what do you do for fun?
Okay, so I live in northern New South Wales in a town called Murwillumbah, which is about 15 minutes inland from Kingscliff near the border. Been here for about 15 years. An average day would look like getting up, taking the dog for a walk, hanging with my boy and dropping him to school. And then I normally do a morning of coaching. So I'll have clients either in person here or on Zoom. The early afternoon is my preferred move my body time. So I'll jump down in the gym or go for a swim or do something. And then often at night, I'll have a group that I'll run. And when I'm not doing that, to be honest, I'm probably just like trawling through a YouTube rabbit hole.
Have been there. Mm.
Yeah, and recently the perfect day or our average day has looked like a little bit of jigsaw puzzle.
Mm.
I'm really loving at the moment, especially this time of year, like getting away from my phone or the computer and just being mindful with something. So I've been digging that lately.
Mm. Awesome. And what do you do for fun when you're not working?
Jigsaws? No,
Literal jigsaws.
to be honest, I bought my son a table tennis table last year, and that's about as much fun as I can get right now because we're super competitive.
Oh my goodness. I bet you'd be pretty good then if you've got one at home.
Um, I'm okay. I had to change hands, and there's a little bit of story behind that. I lost use of my left hand, so I had to change hands.
Oh,
So
were you left-handed originally?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
How did you lose use of your hand?
I had a stroke while I was in having brain surgery. So there's a little bit
Oh
of
my
relevance to
goodness.
the photo that we're going to talk about today, but yeah, so that'll
Yeah,
probably come up
wow.
as part of it.
Well, why don't we go there right now? Rick, I've asked you to bring in a photo today. Now, this is a photo from a time in your life where you were hiding behind a smile. So you were presenting one version of yourself externally, but the reality was you were struggling internally. So could you please describe for our audience who are listening along the photo that I'm bringing up on the screen right now? What are we looking at here and what was actually going on for you at that time in your life?
All right. I'm going to attempt to do this without getting emotional, but I can't guarantee anything.
All
Um,
is welcome here.
I was in the Austin Hospital in Heidelberg, and I was in a hospital bed, and the photo shows that I've got all these little electrodes attached to my head, and I've got the definition of a fake smile
Mm.
because someone's taking a photo. And what's actually happening is the nurse is injecting saline into the electrodes, and I'm I'm smiling for the photo, but I'm quietly shitting myself. Um,
Mm.
yeah, so in that time, the backstory for this is I grew up with epilepsy, and when I reached about 40, I got to a stage where I was physically, mentally, emotionally burnt out.
Mm.
And how that showed up was the seizures weren't controlled with the medication I was taking. So I had the burnout on one side, and I was running a small business and it was super busy and life was full. And then on the other side, I was having seizures and something had to give. So essentially, I found a doctor that um, accepted me in a program to see if I was eligible for brain surgery. And that's what this photo is. It's me going through that process of this gets a bit gross, a bit gruesome, but I spent 10 days at the Austin hospital and they took me off my medication and they put the electrodes on with the goal of me having as many seizures as possible.
My goodness.
So the the smile that you see there is the mask of the fear of anticipation of what's going to happen in the next hour.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and any person who's had a seizure knows that they're not very enjoyable. And any epileptic that you speak to will definitely be like, yeah, this is. And I think, yeah, there's a couple of directions I could go here, but I'll stay with the moment of the photo. So
Mm.
what happened was I had a little emergency button and a buzzer. And as soon as I felt like I was going to pass out and have a seizure, I pressed that. They'd come in, rush me down to the CT scan, plug me in. And the goal was while I was seizing to take photos to track exactly where the epilepsy starts in my brain. Like wild science, like crazy.
Ah, absolutely.
And I had to do that multiple times to get the accuracy of whether or not this could be surgically operated on. And it was like, I don't know, it was like a bad dream
Mm.
because my whole life uh, I'd avoided the reality of wanting to have a seizure in public. I got teased a little bit when I was a kid, a little bit, a lot. And so it wasn't okay for me to have a seizure in public because I knew what the ramifications were. So the anxiety that I carried throughout life, not so much about the seizure, but about the anxiety of having a seizure in public was huge. And it was probably bigger than the actual seizure itself.
Mm. And I'm imagining then from a young age, on some level, were you restricting yourself from certain environments? Did you withhold from going to places because of this fear of having a seizure in public? Do you think that it impacted the expansiveness of your life at that time?
Yeah, in some capacity, like I had to be pretty careful about drinking and
Mm.
anything that altered my state, not enough sleep, all of that stuff. Um, yeah, and I got really good at working out where is a nice, comfortable piece of grass, or where is a bed, or where's a place to have a seizure that I'm not going to knock myself out, which is a really strange thing for a kid to work out.
Mm. What
Um,
about being alone? Was that something that you feared? If you were to have a seizure alone, particularly like you said, if you were to fall and hit your head or
yeah, it's really funny. I actually was okay with that because I completely black out, or I did. So it's like you get knocked out and you wake up and you feel like you've been beaten up or run a marathon, like the body's just really sore. So I don't get to see the visual reality of what that looks like, but other people do, and it is not pretty. It is
Mm.
not pretty. It's
Mm.
scary.
Mm.
So I was kind of, in a weird way, I was kind of okay for not people not to see that, and it didn't happen that often. It was pretty well controlled. But I'd rather be alone, and it sounds weird saying that, but I could get myself to safety and make sure I was right. But I didn't want anyone to see me doing that because
Mm,
it's aggressive and it's violent and it's not pretty.
mm. I've only ever seen it on, I remember watching an episode on 60 Minutes about this poor young boy who was having them multiple times a day. And
Yeah.
I remember the visuals of that, but I've never actually seen somebody have an epileptic fit in front of me. But I'm wondering, so you can tell when it's coming on? Is there like sensations or some sort of precursor?
Yeah, I used to get a numb arm, so my left arm would just drop, and that was the early sign, and then it'd get a little bit of an aura. So that would give me a little window of time to go, all right,
Mm,
drop what
mm,
you're doing, get to the bed, get to wherever. Yeah. So I had a little window there.
yeah.
Mm.
So going back to the photo
Oh,
and the 10 days that you were in treatment, how did the stroke come about?
that's a good question. So
Mm,
in those 10 days, I think I probably had 6 or 7 big seizures that the same process occurred. Excuse me. Which was horrific and challenging, but also there was so much hope in what's on the other side of this testing. And I'm blessed because I had a really small, like a little 5-cent piece mass. So it was highly operable, we found out. So that about 9 months later, I went in and had the surgery. And yeah, so that happened in the same hospital 9 months later from that photo. And in the surgery, um, they removed the entirety of the cells, the epileptic cells that were damaged, I guess. And the challenge was when I woke up and the surgeon came in to check on me, I'm like, "Did you get it all?" Because there was talk of having to do 2 surgeries. And he goes, "Yeah, yeah, we got it all." And I just felt this like full body relief. I was just like, "Okay,
mm,
that's done."
mm,
And he goes, "But we had a bit of a problem with the operation. You had a small stroke during the surgery when we were clamping some stuff, and there's going to be some issue with your left side." And it was really funny because all I cared about was that I didn't have epilepsy anymore.
mm,
And I was like,
mm,
left side, I can rehab that. Like,
mm,
that's fine. But to not have this, it was more the cloud of epilepsy than epilepsy itself hanging over me, the anxiety of the seizures. I was
mm,
like, my life is different now. And yeah, I went into a rehab hospital and started like stroke rehab and started rebuilding that left side. And if you saw me today, you wouldn't notice. Like I
mm.
can't hold a pen on my left side, and there's a few little fine motor skills, but other than that, I'm pretty good.
Wow. And what about the epilepsy? Is that completely gone now?
Dunno.
Oh my goodness.
I'm happy to say that I have not had even an inkling of an aura, of a sensation, of an anything.
Wow. How long has that been?
Uh, it'll be 9 years. No, it was just 9 years. Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
Wild, hey?
I'm so curious to know, you lived 40 plus years with this fear of unknown, uncertainty, the lingering aura of perhaps an oncoming episode.
Mm.
I imagine, and I could be wrong, that you don't just wake up from the surgery and have the doctors tell you that you're all clear and that goes away. Like I'm imagining there was a period of time, maybe you're still in it, where there's some sort of subconscious, you know, awareness around that. Is that true? Or
Yeah, it's funny.
when did that lift?
So the doctors officially can't say that I don't have epilepsy.
Mm,
It's I don't think they're allowed
mm,
for fear of it recurring or fear of it popping up in a different circumstance. So all along, they've said to me, like, you still have epilepsy. I still take one small tablet a day as an insurance policy,
mm,
and I'll have to do that for the rest of my life, which I'm fine with. But in me, knowing what the sensations were and knowing that I haven't experienced any of that in any capacity, I know, and
Mm,
that's all I need.
mm. How do you think that's impacted the way you show up in life, in your business, in your relationships, no longer having that fear, that constant lingering of the unknown?
Oh, that's a good question, and not one I've been asked before. I think it's more about what I miss. So I think previously there's there's just that there's a there's a little bit of fear, there's a little bit of anxiety of this could happen at any time. And when I would have had a bad sleep and I can feel my arm starting to get a bit funny, and so there's just this, if I was driving somewhere, there was just this low key anxiety that kind of followed me around, and I
Mm,
kind of tried to ignore it on the regular, and it's just not there anymore.
mm,
And I'm sure there's been other people on the show that have talked about, the difference between past and present. And for me, I don't walk around with that anxiety following me around. And
mm.
uh, I'm super privileged to be in that situation, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, it actually reminds me of my own experience around anxiety back when I was drinking quite heavily. And it would just, anxiety is so insidious because it really steals joy from the present moment, doesn't it? Like
Mm.
when you're in that spiral of anxiety, and I've had like my anxiety would manifest as health anxiety, and I would have really dark thoughts about my health, and I'd get paranoid, and I'd start to experience phantom pain. A lot of time for me that would be in my breasts, and so I'd start to spiral down, the thought of having cancer, and it would get really really intense, and I would be really stuck in those thoughts. And what that did for me at the time was it really pulled me from the present moment. Like I couldn't
Mm.
be fully present in my relationships, in my work, in anything because I always had these thoughts in the back of my mind. Sometimes I could dial them down, but when they were really loud, it really, like I said, it stole the joy from the present moment. And I can, so happily say that I'm free from those thoughts today because I've taken the steps to get my anxiety under control. Part of that for me was removing alcohol. But yeah, I think it just reminded me because I think that anytime you've got anything to do with your health in particular that is taking up space, it can really prevent you from being able to show up fully,
Mm.
with your guard down in any other situation.
So, am I hearing in that you not having that anxiety allows you to be more present?
1000%.
Yeah. And can I ask you a question? Can
Of
I?
course. There's no rules here.
Yeah, cool. What's the knock on in your world of you being more present? Like, what's the other side of that?
Yeah, I think for me, being more present means that I am a lot more content these days. Like, I'm really able to, I will often have these waves of gratitude hit me
Mhm.
out of nowhere in the middle of the day. And I'll be doing the most mundane of tasks when that wave of gratitude comes through me. And I think that is a really powerful sign that I'm in the present moment.
Yeah,
Whereas in the past, I was always searching for the thing that was going to give me that feeling. So I was constantly looking outside of myself and ingesting things in the hopes that I would feel the feeling that I now get on a regular basis by doing nothing, by not doing anything at all.
being
Yeah.
present. Yeah.
By being present.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I love that you've got your therapist hat on, Rick.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to know. It's a question I ask all therapists who join me here on the pod, and it's my favorite question because I think it's always got a really interesting answer. What was it for you that led you to want to become a therapist?
Okay, let me set some context first. I can't quite call myself a therapist just yet. I'm halfway through my master's in Gestalt therapy. So I'm in this weird transition from, I call what I do holistic coaching, which is a connection of physical, mental, emotional. And I'm 2 or 3 years down the path of Gestalt therapy. And it's fair to say that what I do is 95% Gestalt therapy without calling it Gestalt therapy. So I don't want to get in trouble by PACFA. But I can still answer your question. And it's something that I've just realized recently is that I find I've kind of discovered a joy of watching people find their own way. And as a therapist or a coach, if I can ask some curious questions that lead them to these answers and lead them to, for them to find their way, which is different for everyone, that feels meaningful. And it feels meaningful to me to do meaningful work. It's kind of as simple as that. Like and there's little knock-on effects, like just like you spoke about, like contentment, like watching the ripple effect of someone really getting to have a sense of self and how they show up in the world, but watching the ripple effect of that in their world, it's just feels real. And
What were you doing before you took this transition? I want to talk a bit more about Gestalt therapy in a moment, but I'm curious to know, like, what were the points, the steps up the ladder that got you here?
I feel like it was more a slippery slide than a ladder.
A jungle gym.
Yeah.
Up, down, round and round.
Yeah, that bit of, yeah. I spent 25 years in the fitness industry. So the commonality between the two is that I've spent a lot of time with humans. And I've spent a lot of one-on-one time. I've spent a lot of time in groups. And that was the part that I loved. And the fitness industry, I love it as a vehicle for people to move forward in their lives, but I got lost a little bit in the superficiality of it. And if I had to teach another person how to squat, I'd probably gonna tear my eyes out. And I kind of played in those 25 years. I played in every arena, whether it was big gyms, personal training studios, one-on-one stuff, like high-end stuff. Like I kind of played in all the arenas. We had a franchise at one stage that we built, and I loved it. But what I've worked out since is that I actually just loved being with other people. And so that human thread is what's carried over. And when I got sick, when I was recovering from my surgery, I was like, I don't want to do any coaching anymore. Like, I'm done. And that was a really dark place because it was that liminal space of like, I don't know what's next, but I know it's not that. And I'm not so great in the uncertain. Well, I wasn't then. I'm better now. But yeah, what I worked out was like I'm a curious cat, and actually, as my dog barks.
Rocky's like, "Where's the cat?"
Sorry, there's no cat there. On cue.
That was perfect.
I have a real deep, genuine curiosity for how we tick, and I love that we're all different. I love that there's no blueprint. So that was enough ingredients to go, I want to do something with people. And that kind of led me to holistic coaching. And I worked with a guy in the US for 3 years, and I've kind of been doing that work now for another 3 years and running a men's circle and doing a few other things. But it's the part that also runs into Gestalt therapy where you're more a co-pilot or a tour guide than this is the way to do it. And that's the difference with the fitness industry. It was like, come to me, I'll show you the way. Whereas the work that I do now is very much, let's have a conversation and work out the way together.
So, for anyone who doesn't know, funnily enough, my psychotherapist has done a lot of training in Gestalt. And so I'd be curious to know from your answer here how much of that she's interwoven into our time together. But for anyone who's listening along who has never heard of that before, what is it? Is it a modality? Is it, yeah, what does it
Yeah.
even mean? You kind of touched on it, but I'd love to dive a little deeper.
Mm. Yeah, it's a form of psychotherapy. And it focuses on the here and now. So it's very awareness based, it's very present moment. And Gestalt means to be complete, to complete a loop. So as therapists, we work on unfinished business from the past that's showing up in the present. And what I like about it is we don't go trauma hunting. So it's not like, all right, let's dig into your childhood. It's like, what's here, what's popping up, what's repeating. That's our doorway, and we start there.
Mm,
And it's gentle and it's beautiful and it's growth orientated and it's very what we call horizontal, where we're on an even platform with the client and the therapist. So
I really like that.
yeah, I'm here for all of that stuff, and yeah,
Yeah, and having it be less of a hierarchical kind of, it's
yeah,
not the right word I'm looking for, but, where the we're not pedestaling the therapist in that situation, like, it's,
yeah.
that really even dialogue.
And the founders specifically started this modality as a work against psychoanalytical therapy, the old school Freud of like, I'll sit on the chair, tell me a story, and I'll interpret and tell you what's wrong with you.
Mm.
So this is kind of the exact opposite. It's like, let's have a conversation, let's be in dialogue, let's see what's happening in our body as we're speaking, and let's work it out together.
Ugh, I love that because the truth is, I mean, the journey that I've been on in the last 6 years that I'm coming back to time and time and time again is that the answers have always been there. They're actually in my heart. They're
Yeah.
internal, but I have to get quiet enough to be able to hear it. You know,
Mm.
when you're living a busy life, a noisy life, caught up in the chaos or the achievement or the striving or whatever it is for you, then you're never quiet enough to hear it. But, for me anyway, through meditation and yoga and breath work and just really slowing down, I'm actually now able to tap into those answers a lot of the time. And yeah, like again, like I think that's the key to the contentment that we're so often searching for.
Yeah, and it kind of speaks to how busy we all are and how
Mm,
distracted, and it's very easy to not stop, to not feel, to not check in. Like it's super easy. Like
mm.
it's everywhere.
Well, it's almost a coping mechanism, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
To stay stuck in the busy.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I love about Gestalt is that it's very kind, very gentle, but we go back and look at the repeating patterns that have shaped who we are, and we treat those patterns with love and reverence, and that part of these patterns have given you your superpowers, and there's a part that's not so great anymore, and can we be with both of those parts?
Mm. I'm curious, you were just on a therapy retreat, like intensive, weren't you? Like some sort of training retreat, which sounds
I,
so full on. But I wonder, like, what was revealed to you about yourself through that experience?
yeah, I've just come back from therapy camp. Um,
It's like summer camp.
I call it therapy camp. It's not. We have as part of our training, we have a 7-day residential every year, and it's all the years get together. There's 4 years in our school, and we get people from the US to come and speak, and it's a beautiful little environment, but it's pretty intense. Like we do a lot of groups, we do a lot of one-on-one work, and it's funny. Like the question that you asked is like, what popped up? What did I get from
Mm,
it? And I walked in there this year with a comfortability to be me,
mm,
and I wanted to road test how comfortable I was being me, as opposed to what did I have to put a mask on? Did I have to behave differently to fit into this environment? And so what I got from the week was confirmation that it's okay just to be me. And that sounds so simplistic when I say it out loud, but I've spent so much of my life attempting to be something else for someone else.
Mm,
So the relief that comes from that, just that realization is just like, I just feel it. I
mm,
just get to be me.
mm. I think so many people listening along right now would relate to that. I know I certainly do, of living decades wearing different masks,
Yeah.
changing my behavior, my personality, whatever I needed to do. For me, it came from a deep sense of unworthiness and a desire to be validated and loved. But whatever it is that's driving that behavior, I think it's so common for so many of us. And it's so refreshing to know that you could actually just show up as yourself. And in most instances, that is probably going to be more well received than if you are to show up with this. Like for me, I always showed up as the shiny version, like the
Yeah,
put
yeah.
together version. And
Mm,
it's like, that's just not the reality of who I
mm,
am. There's messy parts. And I think whenever I've allowed people to see those messy parts, and that's one of the things I love about podcasting is,
mm.
it's this long format. You can get really honest with where you're at. And in these beautiful conversations with others, it brings up so much. That's always been what I have when I've received the most positive feedback from people
Mm.
is when they're like, thank you for letting us see the real you. Because, no, I mean, we live in a world of social media and all the polished bullshit. Like, everyone's over it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And there's a couple of things in there that you said. One is I have a real parallel to the self-worth validation treadmill.
Mm,
That's been really big for me as well. And I think
mm,
that's why this realization recently has so much weight because I've spent so much time and there's been so much shame around not being enough.
mm,
So I just wanted to speak to that. And yeah, the modeling honesty and modeling some vulnerability is it's a really cool thing to witness. Like I see it in our men's circle quite often. And if we start our check-in round and the first guy checks in with something that's really alive and it's there, the whole check-in round will be changed, and everyone gets permission to go there as well. And
mm,
it's wild. It's so simple. Like it's not there's no skill in that. It's just the courage to speak.
mm. If you were to think back to where that core wound came for you, that need for validation, the treadmill of achievement, like can you thread it back to a particular moment?
Yeah, I've done a little bit of work with it in therapy.
I imagine you would
Uh,
have.
it's one of the joys of studying is we have to be in therapy, so I love
Oh
it.
yeah. The self-inquiry would be on another level.
Yeah, there was nothing. There's no major moment. I just had some garden variety stuff that I grew up with. That
Mm,
my dad was super busy. He pre- was the provider and really wore that as a badge of honor, and that meant that I had to do certain things to try and get his attention. So there was really no big moment. There was a couple of moments of things that happened that caused some shame that added to that feeling along the way in different age groups and stuff. But I think it was just a garden variety growing up in the 80s and,
mm,
parents that were doing their best, but without bagging that generation. Like, I feel like we're more emotionally aware now.
oh, without a doubt.
So they did what they did. And, so yeah, I kind of call that the garden variety, just, you know, a little bit
Mm.
of work it out yourself kind of thing. And part of that for me was being the good boy.
Do you know what's really interesting? You talk about this idea of it being generational, and we grew up with parents who, were doing the best with what they had, but that's all they knew at the time. And their parents certainly weren't
Oh, yeah.
offering that to them. So it's all modeled, right? But for some reason, recently on my social media, I've been getting fed a lot of content around millennials and Gen X. and how our baseline operating system is in the doing. Like when we try to relax, like we stay busy, like it's just, and I wonder whether if we were to unpick that a little further, it is because most of us have some core wound around not being seen, not being heard, and that need for validation. I don't think it's present so much with the next generation underneath us, Gen Z and whatnot,
Mm,
because they had a lot more of their parents' time and attention. But for people like you and
interesting.
me who grew up with those parents who were working so hard to provide, but as a result of that, were very rarely present. We're just all so desperate to be seen and to be
See me, see
validated.
me.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wonder whether we've just figured that out.
Yeah, I think you could be onto something there. Like most of the people I work with are kind of in that midlife transition,
Mm,
and it's it wouldn't be hard to throw a blanket over that everyone's got some version of this around that age group. Mm,
1000%.
mm.
So you've obviously spent a lot of time in therapy. What
Pretty needed to too, just quietly.
I want to know, what is it that you've had to unlearn to allow you to become who you are today?
Oh, it's probably got ties to what we were just talking about, and I think
Mm,
it still pops up now, and it's the part of me that needs to strive and achieve and
mm,
build something in order to feel good. And I love that part. I love that part of me that
mm,
my dad put that into me, that he was a business owner and he never worked for anyone. He had these crazy ideas that he just made work, and I had that modeled to me. But it also meant that I spent so much time trying to make him proud
mm,
that got inbuilt, and I was just I worked out in the last 10 years that I've spent most of my life trying to make my dad proud, and he was proud anyway.
mm,
And now he's passed, and I often find myself still doing things with this little emotional driver of making dad proud.
mm.
So it's still there.
What about your son? Like, did becoming a father shift that for you at all? Like, because I just imagine,
Mm.
I'm not a parent myself, but I can just tell that you would be so immensely proud of your son. And so, did that
Yeah.
then sort of allow you to have a different lens?
Well, it had a double-edged sword because I love my dad, but there was some characteristics that I didn't want to repeat,
Mm,
and I was pretty clear and I was pretty adamant. And then when I burnt out and all the stuff happened when I was 40, I was like, fuck, I've turned into my dad. Like I'm the overworking provider that doesn't connect with his family and is too busy. And I just turned into him. So
mm,
that was the tipping point. And then after that, I was like, okay, A, how do I get to know this part of me? And B, how do I model something different to Finn? And that's my big work in progress, because I see he's my North Star
mm,
and he shapes how I show up. Um, yeah, and that makes me a bit teary because it's true and it matters to me.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful.
Mm.
So, how do you then protect your energy today? Because you're still very much in a service-based business where you're interacting with humans. You're now holding a whole different layer and depth of their energy in supporting them in a therapy capacity and a coaching capacity. Like, what do you do? How do you manage that? Because I know for me, like I hit peak burnout earlier this year, and I just took 3 months to really slow down, and it really helped. But I don't want to be on that roller coaster of work, burnout, stop. Like
Mm.
what's the balance? How are you finding it anyway?
It's a really good question. And it's something that Joe and I work with all the time, because in the past it was just bite off as much as I can and just chew harder.
Mm,
And I know that doesn't work for me. So I've kind of, the benefit of unpicking all that dad stuff means that that's less prevalent.
mm,
The other part of it was really looking at and doing some work around how I practice, because some of the traits that I picked up throughout my life was the people pleaser and the
Mm,
rescuer. And what I worked out is a lot of my work in the fitness industry was an unconscious version of those things coming out,
mm.
which is a bit of a shock. I was like, fuck, I thought
Damn
I
it.
had control. And so doing quite a bit of work on realizing that it's not my responsibility to fix anyone
Mm,
takes a lot of mental and physical pressure off me to get any outcome.
mm,
And that side of it, kind of my inner mental emotional side of how I show up, then kind of means that if I'm not fixing, all I have to do is be present. That's literally all I have to do.
mm.
And that comes with a huge relief for me. And I was talking to someone the other day, and I've got a Garmin and it has the body battery. And I left a session the other day and I'd gained body battery from just being present with someone.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
That's so cool.
yeah. And normally I need to have a nap to
Mm,
get some body battery. So my body is, the physiology of it, of being present, is different to when I'm trying to fix and organize and get somewhere. So there's
mm.
that part. And then there's just the scheduling part, I think, is just being a little smarter around capacity. And
Mm,
that
mm.
that's a, a work in progress because I get excited about stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
mm,
I get that. And I think as well, when you are a sole trader or you run your own business, for some of us, there can be a little bit of a scarcity mindset that can play out where you don't want to say no to work
oh,
because when work's coming in, it's fantastic, but then you will get to a point if there's not healthy boundaries around that where you take on too much. And then energetically, that's energy's got to come from somewhere. So who's losing that? Is it your
mm.
intimate partner? Is it your friends? Is it your family? Like it's something's got to give.
Yeah, that's the dance, isn't it?
Mm.
Mm.
Mm. I was listening to your podcast this morning, actually, and you were chatting to your partner, Joe. And something that I loved that you guys were talking about, which reminds me of what you were saying with the body battery increasing, is that when people share stories, their
Mm.
dopamine increases. And there's this really beautiful, um, energizing effect from openness, vulnerability, and the sharing of people's stories. How do you think that plays out? Because you have the privilege of witnessing this in your men's circles every single week. What are some of the transformations, the impact that you've seen, particularly for men, because that's your sphere, right? When people get together and they share like that.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think it's the subtleties that come from that. And if someone's had an experience for most of their life where they haven't been heard, even just to be seen in a group of people and feel like they understand what you're saying, that alone can be enough
Mm,
to then be like that, because that's a feeling. And then for that to then have knock-on effects of, okay, let me go out into the world now. So I actually think it's in the simplicity. And we have a rule in our circle and all the groups I run, there's no fracking, which is, we've spoken about this previously, like no fixing, rescuing, advice, or caretaking, because they're normally the four things that come in that ruin the listening.
mm,
And because we've had that rule and we're conditioned, not conditioned, but it's an expectation, the men know that um, people aren't going to jump over the top and be like, oh, have you tried this? Or have you done this? And they can just be like, dude, I really feel you. Like, that must
mm,
be hard right now. And for most men, and I do a lot of work with women too, it's just that I do run a men's circle, but for most people, that that listening is not something that they're used to. They're not used to receiving it, because it's very rare. So I think I think part of my work is actually just touching on this really simple but undervalued aspects of being human.
Mm.
And I
Mm.
think listening is right up there.
1000%. As you were sharing that, I was thinking about I've had partners in the past who, God bless them, have been real fixers, you know? Like, so I'll take something to them and they're like, I know the answer. This is what
Oh.
we have to do. And I would always get really overwhelmed and a bit frustrated by that. Whereas my husband now is the complete opposite. He just, it's almost to the point where I'm like, can you help me here? Like, give me an
Yeah.
answer. Like, he's just so calm and he just sits there and he just smiles and nods and listens, you know? And it's so nice to be able to take my stuff to somebody who's just going to let me share, because sometimes that's all we need. It's just
Mm.
the space to be able to share. And then, like we were saying before, the solution is actually 9 times out of 10 going to be within.
Yeah. I was talking to a
Mm.
client this morning and realizing that there's actually quite a bit of magic in the dialogue. Like even you and I speaking now, there's stuff popping up that we didn't plan for. So
Yeah.
so often just that magic appears when the environment is okay, that you really know the person's listening.
And I think as well, like having a space that feels safe enough to do so.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That brings me on to a question that I wanted to ask about. In your bio, you talk about this concept of emotional responsibility. And when I read your bio preparing for this interview, I was like, ooh, that is cool. Can we talk more about that? Because I just love it. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, good question.
You're like, I'm actually still figuring that out.
No, I am and I'm not. There's a couple of things. I'm really big on personal responsibility. It's a super high value for me. And I think the term emotional responsibility just takes that into the emotional realm. And I think as a human, we've all had an experience where an emotion and a reaction to an emotion has led to something that you regret.
Hmm.
Um, and often it's where little ruptures occur and where there's conflict in relationship or in the workplace. And emotional responsibility for me is around, can I welcome everything? Can I own my experience? And then can I share my experience? Can I reveal it in a way that has ownership, you know? And not in a you made me. It's like,
Mm.
I got some anger here and I want to speak to it, and I want to be cautious because I know in the past it's that. It's that, can I own my shit? Can I not put it on someone else? And can I reveal it? Can I have the courage to reveal what's going on in here?
I love that so much because, on the one hand, I can so relate to being the person who used the blame game. You know, back when I was in my addiction, my drinking days, I would point the finger, it was everyone else's fault.
Oh yeah.
And then, yeah, and then I can also do the opposite where I shut everything down. So it's like I have a feeling, but I don't want conflict. So I'm just going to push that down somewhere so that I don't have to deal with it, all the while building a resentment against you because I'm not speaking my voice and I'm not processing my emotions in real time. And then I'm just
Mm.
carrying around this bag of unprocessed shit, basically.
Yeah.
And that's not a great way to live either. So it's so beautiful how you said that it's giving yourself the time and space to feel it and acknowledge it, and then to actually share it. And I think that's really the communication piece, right?
Mm. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's scary
Yeah.
because if it hasn't been modeled in your house growing up, then you don't know how to do it. Like,
Mm. Mm.
so yeah, it's like you pointed out two good points there. Is one is like, I want to withdraw and not own it,
Mm.
and the other one is I want to point the finger and blame. It's like this is in the middle of those two, and it's
Mm.
yeah. I use the analogy of stepping into the pool. So rather than like jumping into the deep end and just having a go at it, it's like, can we walk in the shallow end and just like try a little bit on someone that's, it's not a really intense situation, but you get some practice. How was that? Yeah, cool. I could do this differently. Come back the next time on something that's a little bit bigger, maybe a 4 out of 10, and just start to build the muscle of that as we go. Because the reality is, the acceptance part is, not many people were taught how to do this. Yeah.
Absolutely not. I remember the first time I was taught how to communicate this way was when I was in rehab in 2020.
Yeah.
Up until then, I'd never been taught, I'd never been modeled it, I didn't have the skills. And to say I do it perfectly would be a lie, but I'm certainly a lot better of it now. But I think I'm also really lucky that I have a partner who is, he doesn't take things personally. So what I mean by that is I can take my stuff into conversation. And because I think I'm coming from a place of vulnerability and non-attacking, he's able to sit there and hold it, and we can then communicate rather than, I think sometimes if you go in really hot, then of course the other person's going to be reactive because they're going to get into a place of defense and wanting to defend their position. And then you have this huge blow up argument.
I want to challenge one thing in there. You
Mm.
said that you're lucky. I actually don't think it's luck.
Yeah. Mhm.
I think, we get to, be the mirror of who we are. So, and I think
No,
what
thank you.
and I think what you're speaking to is emotional maturity. Like, uh, emotional immaturity is the reactive, it's the defensiveness, it's the fuck you. Whereas emotional maturity is like, oh, I hear you and I can be with it. And yeah, it's a different response.
Mm. It was also very much, in terms of, I think one of the beautiful things about any partnership is that, you learn from each other and you grow and support one another. And this is something that my partner was actually far better at than I was when we first started dating. I was definitely the more reactive of the two.
Mm.
And it's so interesting, even just recently, this is really like it's something that happened very recently, was my partner was triggered by something. And in the past, if that had happened, my partner being triggered and him shutting down, I would have, because I was super codependent in the past, I would have made that about me, and I would have then
Yeah.
gone, my walls would have then gone up, and I would have been like, well, fuck you. And then I would have done what I used to do, which is like isolate or leave,
Yep.
do a runner, not forever, but like, just get out of the house and it was so interesting because, the body's always giving feedback. I felt that part of me, that little girl, that the one who got really hurt in that moment, who felt shut down, I felt her stick her head up. But then almost instantly, I was able to go, no, no, Ash, this is okay. He's having a feeling. It's got nothing to do with you. What he needs here is actually for you to hold the space. And you can do that. And it's going to be okay.
Mm.
So I didn't try and fix it. I didn't try and do anything. I just walked into the kitchen, got on with a couple of things. And then sure enough, within 15 minutes, he came out and was like, hey, sorry about that. And I was like, no, it's okay. Like, I get it. Oh my goodness. Talk about, like, I did not know how to do that a
Yeah.
few years ago.
Yeah. It's massive,
It's
isn't it?
wild. Yeah.
And if you think about impact, like the old version of that, how it would have played out and the blast radius that would have had for whether it's hours, days, emotions, all of it, and just the impact that's not there when you can respond in a way that is really mature.
It comes back to that whole idea of contentment, right? Like life is just so much more peaceful.
Yeah. And like that word peace comes up a bit in my work because I think we can make a conscious choice to protect our peace, and we can make a conscious choice to fuck it up. You know?
So true. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's often a little part of us that just loves the fight, you know?
Yes.
So it's like, how do we protect our peace?
Especially if that's been your baseline
Yeah.
or what was modeled to you or what felt safe for you.
Yep. Game
If
on.
chaos felt safe, it's you're going to keep searching for the chaos. I
Mm.
know I certainly did.
Mm.
Hey, can we talk about midlife pivots and what that looks like? Because I know that's something
Mm.
that you talk to, and I think it's something that I'm having a lot of conversations with people at the moment where they're getting to this point in their lives where they've achieved a level of success in their career. They've got, young-ish kids, sort of 10, 11, 12, moving into teenage years, and they're getting burnt out, and they're at this point of, do I just keep doing this for another 10 years, 15 years, or do I make a change? But a change feels really scary.
Yeah. Well, I think you've just painted a pretty good picture because It's just that. It's the I've worked hard for the majority of my adult life, and I've got all the things to whatever degree that is, but I'm dissatisfied. I don't feel full. I don't feel content. I actually just feel a little bit reactive and a little bit frustrated and a little bit lost. And I've been there, and I think I had some things that happened, whether it was the health stuff or my dad passing, where I had some real moments in life where I was like, I need to focus on what matters most. And the bigger house and the better car and the bigger bank's balance wasn't cutting it. So for me, it was coming back to what gives me meaning and what feels meaningful. And that was the antidote for the dissatisfaction of the superficial. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So how does one find the meaning?
Mm.
Is that like answering like what is the meaning of life? I
Pretty
don't mean to
much.
throw that. Yeah. Sorry about that. Just a
No,
light
actually,
question.
I think there is an answer to that. I've never really been asked that question, but I think the answer's in really getting to know ourselves. And if we really get to know ourselves, we get in touch with what brings us joy, what gives us meaning, how do we feel content? But if we're disconnected from self, that shit ain't happening. So there's a starting point,
1,000.
you know, connection
I
to
love
self,
that.
connection to other, and then connection to the broader is probably the 3 layers of that.
And so how have you facilitated that connection to self? For me, it's been through predominantly meditation and yoga were the two like gateways for me. What has it been looking like for you over the last decade?
Dialogue. It's dialogue.
Therapy. Mm,
Yeah, and not even in a therapeutic setting.
mm,
Conversations,
yeah.
questions. One thing I do with one-on-one clients is we get a butcher's paper out and we map and we put a visual on what their inner world looks like. And even just that simple activity, which I love, by the way, watching people draw dots from that bit, that's how that fear happens, and then under that is that thing I'm trying to avoid. And just that simple process it's just a way that people can get to know themselves better and their patterns and how they tick. And then from there, we get to do some work around how do we love on the parts that you don't love on,
Mm,
or at least not hide them. And then that frees us up to move towards what brings us joy.
mm,
But I think too many people reach for the what now without really mapping out the territory of what's going on here and why am I here. Yeah.
mm. I love that so much.
Mm.
Oh, just this idea of like mapping your own soul.
Mm.
Because we don't ever spend the time to stop and look at this stuff, do we? We're
No.
always looking outside of ourselves. What have I got to, and that could be in, you're in the mode of the firefighter, putting out the fires and predicting what's to come.
Mm.
Or like we said before, maybe you're just stuck in the busyness. But this episode's dropping at the start of 2026. And so I really want to support anyone who's listening right now to think about, what a great time of year to actually do that exercise, to get out the butcher's paper and to really look at what's going on in your life. How
Mm.
are you? How are you feeling about the key areas of your life? And it doesn't have to be, the old traditional like values, visions kind of thing. It
No.
could be so much more heart led
Yeah.
than that.
And there's
Yeah.
no wrong answer. There's
Mm,
no wrong answer.
that's so cool.
Mm.
Thank you for sharing that, Rick. We are almost at the end of this conversation, and I feel like I could talk to you forever. But there's one final question that I'm really keen to hear your answer to share with everyone here today. So, Rick, I'm going to ask you, what are your 3 non negotiables that allow you to live your life today happy, authentic, and free?
Honesty,
Mm-hmm.
playfulness.
Mm,
You've put me on the spot here because I hadn't thought about these.
that's not a problem.
Yeah,
Take your time.
honesty is definitely not negotiable.
Why is honesty so important?
I just think it's tiring to not be honest. It's tiring to hold the charade up, you know? And I'm not sure why we need to be dishonest. So, yeah, it's super important for me. And I learnt that lesson the hard way, you know? So, yeah. And the second one's playfulness, because life is fucking short and it should be fun. And we don't need to take ourselves so seriously. And I think that's one thing that I've really enjoyed throughout my whole working life is I really try and make it fun. Even this heavy stuff around emotion and all that, I find myself laughing at clients most days, and not at them, but with them, and like making it an energy. So the playfulness is really important to me, and it can get lost pretty quickly. So, and then the third one, movement. Just being. One of the things that I got from therapy camp last week was movement is like prayer for me. I don't pray, but things come to me when I'm out walking the dog or when I'm in the gym, and that's the time when I can clear my mind and just be, and then the things that need to come in come in. So yeah, I'm going to go honesty, playfulness, and movement.
I love it. That's awesome. Perfect. Honesty is actually my number one as well. Playfulness is something I definitely need to incorporate more in my life, and movement 1000% a non-negotiable.
What are
So
yours? What are the other two of yours then?
mine are, well, they change a lot, but I would say, what order? I mean, honesty's always been my number one. Number two would be recovery, but like recovery and connection. So my community within my recovery as well. And the third one for me right now is, I mean, it's always up there,
You'll see
prayer
the
and
smile.
meditation. Yeah. Yeah, prayer and meditation. It's how I start every single day, and it's the foundation to everything I do. So
Yeah, nice.
yeah.
Thanks for being
Hey,
put on the
Rick.
spot then.
Oh, no worries. Thanks for asking some good questions back at me. We say here on Behind the Smile that when we recover loudly, no one needs suffer in silence. So thank you so much for your time here today, for joining us.
My pleasure, Ash. Been great.
Thanks, Rick. Bye.
Bye.